People say you can't live without love, but believe me, oxygen is more necessary. We don't realize its importance because we get it for free. Imagine if one day all the trees disappeared and we had to buy oxygen.
So in other words, the more smog in the sky, the more people will buy.
This actually happened in a town called Theville. Not a single plant exists there. Everything is just plastic. The houses, the roads, and even the fake trees are made of inorganic materials. These trees don't produce oxygen. They only function as lamps. Oxygen is instead delivered to each house by a company called O'Hare Air, and it's not free. Everyone has to pay to breathe. It's been so many years since this system was established that people have gotten used to it. They don't even question it or try to change it. O'Hare Air is owned by the town's mayor, Aloysius O'Hare, who of course is the richest man, living in luxury. Ted Wiggins also lives in this town. He's a young teenage boy who has just experienced his first crush. The girl he likes is Audrey, a beautiful girl who considers Ted her best friend. One day, she takes him to her backyard to show him her painting. Ted admires her work but is curious about the candy-like things she has drawn. She tells him they are real trees, which used to exist long ago. Audrey's biggest wish is to see a real tree, and she jokingly says that if a guy could bring her one, she would marry him right away.
I'm just thinking out loud here. If a guy somehow got you one...
Well, I'd probably marry him on the spot.
This is a great opportunity for Ted. He rushes back home and asks his mother where he can find a tree.
So, Mom, do you happen to know if there's, any place where I could get a real...
She scolds him for asking such a silly question and walks away. However, Ted's grandmother is willing to help. She tells him about a man called the Onsler, who knows everything about real trees. He's a mysterious man who lives outside of town and only shares his secrets in exchange for 2 cents, a nail, and an old snail. Without wasting time, Ted rushes to the town's exit. On the other side, the world is completely different, a barren, lifeless wasteland. Riding his one-wheeled bike, Ted makes his way to the address his grandmother gave him. It lies across a destroyed bridge. When he finally arrives, he finds a street sign that reads, "The Street of the Lifted Lorax." As the smog clears, it reveals a scary, abandoned house. The name Onsler is written on the door tag. Ted rings the bell, but suddenly, a trap throws him into the air, and a giant hook catches him. A scary old man peeks out from the window and warns Ted never to come back. But Ted is determined. He asks what happened to the real trees. The mention of trees immediately grabs the Onsler's attention. He blames himself for destroying them all. It happened a long time ago when the Onsler was just a young, enthusiastic boy. He set out on a journey to find the perfect material for his new invention.
Yes, but just remember, Oncie, if somehow your invention ends up a failure instead of a success, oh, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
After traveling for days, he finally discovered a paradise, an incredible place filled with singing fish, dancing bears, exotic birds, crystal clear water, and fluffy, colorful trees. Overjoyed, he pulled out his guitar and began to sing. The animals, intrigued, started dancing along with him. The Onsler chose a good spot and began unpacking his things, but the animals didn't like his careless behavior and grew angry. However, the Onsler had a trick up his sleeve. He pulled out big sacks of soft, squishy marshmallows. The animals had never tasted anything so delicious. After the feast, the Onsler picked up his axe and chopped down a tree. Little did he know, he had just summoned a mythical creature, the guardian of the forest, the Lorax. But despite his grand title, the Lorax was just a small orange creature with a huge mustache. Furious, the Lorax mourned the fallen tree and then went to confront the Onsler, demanding that he leave the forest immediately. However, the Onsler didn't care and refused to stop his business. The Lorax warned him that he was bringing a curse upon himself, but the Onsler didn't take the warning seriously. What happened next was totally unexpected. Ted listens intently, but the old man refuses to continue the story. If Ted wants to hear more, he must return the next day. Back home, Ted daydreams about Audrey's birthday. In his fantasy, he presents her with a living tree. Just as they are about to kiss, his mother interrupts, snapping him back to reality. Ted is determined to meet the Onsler again, but his family insists he spend the weekend with them. Fortunately, his mother gets bored and leaves for her room, giving Ted a chance to sneak away. However, at the exit gate, he is blocked by O'Hare. The greedy mayor doesn't want anyone learning how to grow trees, otherwise no one would buy his packaged oxygen. He warns Ted not to interfere, reminding him that he keeps an eye on every citizen. But Ted refuses to give up. Once O'Hare leaves, Ted escapes the town once more. The Onsler is surprised to see him return. He can tell Ted is doing all this for a girl. A boy does something foolish once because he's a boy, the Onsler says, but if he does it twice, it's for a girl. Saying this, he continues his story. On his first night in the forest, the Lorax teamed up with the animals to get rid of the Onsler. While he was sleeping, they carried him and his entire bed away. Then, they tossed him into the river. Unfortunately, a baby bear was accidentally left on the bed with him. The Lorax quickly rushed to save the bear, climbing up a tree in the process. However, he failed to pull the bear to safety. Meanwhile, the Onsler, still in bed, drifted into the shallow water. When he woke up, he panicked, struggling against the dangerous waves. Finally, the bed became a little steadier, but the waterfall was just a few inches away. Lorax picked up a stick and used it to throw a huge stone in the direction of the waterfall. The stone hit the bed, and Onsler was thrown out of the river. Lorax got worried when he saw him unconscious and used static electricity to wake him up. Onsler felt grateful for the act of kindness and promised never to cut down another tree again. The next morning, he woke up surrounded by all the animals, who were rummaging through his belongings. Annoyed, Onsler decided to leave and market his business. Using the fir tree, he made a fabric piece called thneed that could be used in multiple ways, as a scarf, a rug, a towel, and much more. Lorax mocked his strange invention and predicted its failure. He was right at first. Everyone else also laughed at Onsler's invention. Discouraged, he threw the thneed away, but it accidentally landed on the head of a fashionable girl. She looked stylish wearing it, and suddenly, everyone wanted a thneed too. Unaware of his success, Onsler was still living with the forest animals when, suddenly, a crowd of people arrived, demanding thneeds. He was about to become rich. However, Onsler stopped his story at another cliffhanger. The next day, after visiting the market, Ted tried to leave town again, but O'Hare had sealed the exit. Looking around, Ted spotted a cloud-high building and used it to jump past the town's boundaries. He brought Onsler a bag of marshmallows and listened to the rest of the story. After successfully marketing the thneed, Onsler invited his family to help with the business. They were a greedy and lazy bunch who had always belittled him but were eager to profit from his success. Lorax didn't trust them, but Onsler assured him that the trees would be safe. However, his mother found harvesting too slow and suggested chopping down the trees instead. Onsler agreed. Lorax reminded him of his promise and called him a bad guy, but Onsler's greed kept him from stopping. He picked up his guitar and sang about how he wasn't really bad, just following his destiny. Like any businessman, he focused only on profit and ignored the destruction he was causing. The animals ran out of food. Meanwhile, Onsler had built a massive, luxurious mansion with a spacious office. Lorax visited him, pointing out how much he had changed. He had everything, but still wanted more. Onsler had become a completely different person, forgetting the promise he once made. But Onsler believed he wasn't doing anything wrong and that nothing could stop him. Just as he said that, the last tree was chopped down. There were no trees left. With no materials to make thneeds, Onsler's business collapsed. His family abandoned him.
Son, you have let me down.
And the animals migrated to find a better place. Lorax also left. Onsler was left completely alone in the polluted world he had created. To this day, he regrets his mistakes. He also wonders why Lorax left without fixing the mess. But now, he believes Lorax left the task for someone courageous, someone like Ted. Onsler handed Ted the last remaining seed and asked him to plant it in the middle of town for everyone to see. It may have been just a small seed, but its true value lay in what it could become. Ted sneaked back into town through the drainage system. He destroyed the security camera, but the stubborn device still managed to capture everything and alert O'Hare. Ted ran home and, along the way, called Audrey. As he reached his room, he searched for a way to germinate the seed. Suddenly, his mother called him downstairs. In his rush, Ted knocked over a water bottle, spilling water on the seed. O'Hare arrived and demanded Ted hand over the seed, but Ted refused. O'Hare ordered his men to search Ted's room, but they found nothing. Ted's mother angrily told them off, and O'Hare left, though he promised to keep an eye on them. After his departure, Ted searched for the seed, but only found his grandmother's cane. She had hidden the seed. It had already started germinating, a heartwarming sight. Audrey arrived and was overjoyed to see a real plant for the first time in her life. Ted asked for her help in planting the seed in the middle of town, but O'Hare's security guards were stationed outside. It was time for Ted's mom to step in. She hopped into her high-tech car, turned on the music, and sped away, making the guards think Ted was inside. As they chased her, she made a risky move, driving onto a half-constructed bridge. She braked just in time, and when the guards opened the car door, they found only a dummy. Meanwhile, Ted, Audrey, and Grandma rushed toward the Central Park. O'Hare wasn't giving up. He flew after the seed. Enraged, O'Hare used his gun to activate the oxygen fans, causing a strong wind that blew the seed away. The seed landed inside an oxygen container, but a van hit it, sending it rolling down the street. O'Hare caught the seed container, but his hand got stuck. Ted almost missed his chance, but his cool grandma used her cane to snatch the seed away. They made it to the Central Park, but there was no soil to plant the seed. No worries. Grandma had a solution. She climbed onto a tractor and knocked down O'Hare's statue, breaking the metal ground to reveal dirt beneath. The townspeople started questioning what was happening. O'Hare called trees filthy and useless, trying to convince them they weren't necessary. He even claimed photosynthesis was a lie. At first, the people sided with him, but Ted climbed onto the tractor and broke down the town walls, revealing the outside world. The truth was exposed. Theville was an illusion. Ted urged everyone to give trees a chance. The people realized they were tired of their plastic lives and wanted to breathe fresh, free air. O'Hare made one last attempt to stop them, but the townspeople had made their choice. With their support, Ted planted the seed and watered it. Years later, plants grew everywhere. Onsler left his house and started tending to a small garden. Finally, he had made Lorax proud. To create change, you must be the change. If you like this video and want more, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.